Great. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. My name is Sabrina Stark, and I'm the University Partnership Manager for Absolute Internship. And we're very excited to have three of our host companies with us today, speaking from Asia and Europe. So I just wanted to briefly introduce them, and then I will give them the floor. So we have Mr. Isaac Rosenthal with us today. He's an investment manager for Paragon Partners Asia and based in Shanghai, China. We have Mr. Jorge Rosales, who is a marketing and communications manager for MAS in Madrid, and he's also a communication and marketing professor for La Salle campus in Madrid. Thank you for joining us. And then we also have Ms. Carolyn from Odyssey Capital Group, who's Director of Operations, joining us today from Hong Kong. So special thank you for both of you for being available so late your time. And we're excited to have you guys join us today. As I mentioned, this session will be about 30 minutes, and then we'll have time for question and answers at the end for the participants, so they can ask you any questions they might have in regards to your internships, your companies, and what students can do in your company. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing that screen so we can all see the speakers, and you guys can adjust your view at the top in Zoom for who you want to see on your main screen during this presentation. So thank you guys again for being with us, and we'll go ahead and get started. I wanted to just have each speaker introduce themselves and explain, a bit about their company, their experience with remote work prior to COVID-19, and current opportunities they have for remote internships. So Jorge, if you could go ahead and start us off and tell us a little bit more about yourself and your company.
Okay. Thank you, Sabrina. First of all, thank you for having me, and sorry for my not a good English because it's not my first language, but I'm going to try to do my best. I'm gonna show you the presentation of our company. Our company, it's a consultant company that we are very focused on in the fitness and wellness and sports industry. And when clients contract us, our services, he or she is placed in the hands of multidisciplinary teams of consultants who analyze each situation and offers a complete approach when establish the action and helps achieve the objective. In general, we are a very young consultancy. Let me see how to. Okay, and we have different services. As you can see here, we have the part of the consultant, the training part, coaching, personal selection, market research, public relations, because we work with different media, different televisions, radio, etc. here in Spain. And we have as well different parts of image and graphic design. We have three partners. Our international focus is because we are in partnership with three different associations. The first one is IRSA. IRSA is the International Health, Racquet and Sports Association. They are based in Boston, and well, they have the mission to try to agglutine all the fitness industry worldwide. The second one is FIBO. FIBO is the most important fair in the world of fitness, and they are based in Germany. And for us, is the most biggest fair in the fitness industry, even worldwide. And the third one is Rimini Wellness. That it's a very collective class fair. It takes place in the exhibition center in Rimini, in Italy. So we are in contact all the time with different people around the world, trying to offer different services and try to encourage all the industry together to make things that could be relevant. Well, our clients, we have different clients here in Spain and even in Europe. We are working right now also with clients with Latin America. And yes, as you mentioned, Sabrina, we love to do home office because we did it before COVID. We have to travel a lot, so we have always had someone from our team doing home office. So we are very agile in this ecosystem. Will be part of our team. Well, the first is that you will work with different projects of many types in the fitness industry. You will have an international vision thanks to the strategic partners, as I told you. You will be part of a multidisciplinary team of consultants, and you will be part of the organization of the different events. Well, this year, because of the COVID, our events, almost all of them are online. But well, the trade show in Italy, they are planning to do it offline in presence, and this is going to be at the end of August. So we will see what is going on.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that introduction. Carolyn, can you tell us a little bit about your company and your experience of working with remote, and what internship type of opportunities you all offer? Oh, I'm sorry, Carolyn, sorry, it doesn't seem to be unmuting. There we go.
How's that? Okay.
Good.
Sabrina, first, thank you very much for organizing all this, and fellow American that you are. My background is I've been in the securities industry since 1968. I moved to Hong Kong for 90 days back in September of 1990 and have been here for the last 30 years, enjoying learning more about the industry from an international side of things. Odyssey has offices in Hong Kong, Shanghai, affiliate offices in Australia, Europe, Canada, and growing on a very rapid basis. We are an asset management company. We also deal with wealth management, which means we deal with high net worth clients and family offices. What I find interesting is that with our rapid growth, the opportunities interns would have working with us that we have found over the last 24 months is that they get a wide variety of experiences when they join our company. Since we do have offices all over the world, and Hong Kong being Hong Kong, the way everybody travels, we have systems already in place that most of our advisors work from home or remotely anyway. So we're pretty well set up on a virtual basis as an office, which came in handy when we had SARS and now going through the COVID-19 problem. What that means is that it's easy for potential interns to work with us we give them access to Dynamics 365. We work very actively with teams. We have a CRM system called Wealthcraft. So there's, virtual access, which I think is the important thing when you're working with individuals, that they're at home, and to try to make them feel like they're a part of everything. We do a monthly call with all of our staff, and try to do it video. Believe it or not, Sabrina, I'm not the expert in that area. The good news is I have IT people that specialize in that side of things. We have weekly meetings with our CIO of investments, which the intern, depending on their time zone, obviously could call into and be part of. And that's what we try to do with the interns is they may have specific projects we give them, but then anytime there's a team type thing or a meeting in the office, we try to have our interns join in on that so that they get that feeling of being part of something bigger than just that machine that's asking them to do something for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to give back as much as we expect of them. And so far, our intern program has been very exciting, and we get a lot of referrals from our interns for other referrals. So I guess that kind of says what we're all about. But I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has about my experiences in Asia and with the interns. We've had about 40 of them over the last 24 months in all shapes, sizes, international, you name it, we've had it, and it's been a great experience.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that introduction. Isaac, we'll go ahead and give you the floor here and see if it lets you unmute yourself. And you can tell us a little bit about your company and your experience with remote work and what type of internships you offer.
Thank you. So we focus on cross-border investments. We raise capital in real estate. Typically, we're raising hundreds of millions of dollars for Chinese developers. Typically, what you might read in the newspaper about a company raising and buying buildings for 100 or 200, 300 million dollars, that's what we focus on. Before COVID, we did have interns. They're all coming to the office, although we do have offices in other parts of the world, Vietnam and the US as well. So it was something that I think also in finance, we're more used to, which is working with partners on a daily basis that are not maybe in the same office as yours. When COVID hit, one of our partners was not able to come back to Shanghai because they closed off the border. So it took us about 2 months, and we took all of our servers, all of our applications, put them online. We've been using Microsoft Teams. I think it's very good. One of the ways that we've been able to get interns excited about what they're working on is when we have a training call. So when we have to explain a project regarding some investment analysis or market research, I'll do that pretty much every single day at 9 p.m. Shanghai time, 9 a.m. Shanghai, 9 a.m. Eastern time. It takes about 20 minutes to 30 minutes to explain a project, explain a task, but I'll include all of the interns. So even if they're not, it's not their project or it's not their task, but I'm explaining why this investment analysis document needs to be changed a certain way, and what I think about this document or this investor or this project, I'll include all the other interns. That way, even if their project, that's not their project, they'll have the ability to learn something. And I think that it gets them excited for engaged for the day, then hopefully they do what they're asked to do. And it can be much more difficult. Or at the beginning, it was very difficult to why some interns were responding well and some weren't. But I think after a bit of fine tuning, we've had pretty good success with getting interns excited. And then because of the time zone difference, we have the way that we have it set up is we have a 9 a.m. Group call with everyone. Then they have a team call with their team at 10 a.m. And then we haven't perfected it yet, but I have them basically their assignments are due, their work is due, by the evening at 9 p.m. So USA time 9 p.m. That's my morning, and then I'll check in and give them feedback. And they're expected to basically work 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m. And I think a lot of students also, they're okay with working at night in their room on the computer at home. I think that during the daytime, as it's midnight here and in the AM, they do what they want. So that's what we've been able to do in the last few months. And I think it's been relatively successful.
Great, thank you. And I was wondering if you guys could just speak briefly about what type of skills and qualities are you looking for in a remote intern, especially. So Jorge, if you wanted to start and answer that for your company.
Answer what qualities?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we are looking for people who are curious to do things differently. In consulting, clients hire us to do projects in that different way to see what no one sees. So many times we are faced with little customer information, and yet we have to present something that makes them fall in love. So we are looking for proactive people who, even if they don't have knowledge, is presenting ideas and things to start working with. We are not served by models where they tell people exactly what to do. So it's not our business model. We are required to be agile and present drafts from scratch to start working. For us, I think that is one of our main qualities for the people who work with us.
Thank you. Yeah, and Carolyn, what would you say are some of the qualities and skills that you're looking for in a remote intern?
Well, we definitely need somebody who's what we call self-driven. To be quite honest with you, I don't care if they work from midnight till 5 o'clock in the morning, as long as I know that they are willing to learn, they're independent, I give them a project, and we give them the ability to run with it and take ownership in it. And that's one of the things that our interns have told us is different from working with Odyssey than working with, like, say, an HSBC or a KPMG, not mentioning them in particular, but large corporations, because they get stuck doing one little project and are assigned on that forever. So I guess, you know, and coming to the internship with energy. I mean, I think, as all of you know, especially you university teachers or people, you can teach people stuff, but you can't create energy. They've got to come to the job wanting to learn, wanting to be part of the team. And as we all know, if they come with those basic learned skills and that energy, we can do a great job for them as well as they will do for us.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Isaac, what would you say are skills or qualities that you're looking for in a remote intern? Sorry, I don't know if you're unmuted. Sorry, Isaac, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To repeat what the others have said, passion is definitely the number one requirement for me. The second is that some of the interns that I've received don't have quite the financial background that allows them to be super successful, but definitely passion is the number one requirement. In the first week or two, I'll give everyone pretty basic assignments to get to know them, and the ones that are really eager and active will get challenging assignments after the second week or third week. The ones that don't show a lot of passion, unfortunately, will get either I wouldn't say ignored, but they're going to get very basic projects, and it's basically what they give to the company. They're going to get, you know, maybe more than I think they're expecting from me, some of the other managers, and how much we're willing to give them very interesting and challenging projects. Projects that they probably wouldn't have the chance to participate in for a long time. But that's on a workload, because our projects can take, and if we're dealing with someone whose, you know, work capabilities of doing something independently only is 1 or 2 or 3 hours, and they haven't shown the ability to work independently for, you know, a whole day working on something hard, getting feedback, not always getting the right answer, but keep working at it, then we'll give them more challenging projects. And I think that is really, you know, what an intern is really looking for, because those projects are what they can take as a job skill to when they want to get a job. So basically, for interns that come on into the company and they're not as passionate, they're not going to get challenging projects moving forward. And the ones that are passionate, we'll give them a lot of training and a lot very challenging projects.
Yeah, thank you, Isaac. You hit on a very important point there that we speak to interns about a lot, no matter where they're interning, no matter what type of company it's for, that if you're not showing passion and that you're excited about the work that you're doing and you're able to complete small tasks, you're not going to get bigger tasks. So we've heard that from supervisors, you know, around the world. And sometimes that's difficult for students to understand, because they think, you know, by week 2, I get this project, or by week 4, I get this project, but not necessarily if you haven't been able to show that you're reliable and that you can produce quality work, even in smaller tasks and projects. So yeah, that's very important. Thank you. And what would you all say is a recommendation you have for universities to better prepare students for a remote internship. Caroline, if you don't mind speaking on that first, what recommendations you have for universities for better pairing students for a remote internship?
Hi, I'm sorry. Did you say you wanted me to start?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. I guess working remote is you have to actually ask them, you know, like especially if they were working with us and if they're in Europe, I mean, are they willing to have to be working with different time zones for starters? Because some people just aren't morning people or just aren't evening people. And so that would be one of the things. The other thing is, are they really interested in being alone all day and working on projects rather than being in a group environment such as a classroom or in an office? Because working virtually and alone, I think some people do very well with it. To be quite honest with you, I'm better off in an office environment, but that's my personality. My business partner, on the other hand, one of them, he's much better working from home. He likes to stay focused and not have lots of interruptions. So I guess trying to find out from the individual if virtual will work for them as an individual would be the real key.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah. And Isaac, what would you say is something that universities could do to better prepare students for a remote internship?
I'm still thinking about my answer. I'll pass for
Okay,
now.
we can go to Jorge if he has his answer.
Okay, from my point of view, I think that soft skills are more important in solving the needs of working on remote than technical skills and work experience. Companies will need people who are more agile and adaptable, able to cope with rapid change in the market. So I'm aware that in the university, they teach you the basis of everything, but the current company, in a world that is constantly changing, we have to constantly change the strategy, and that should be taken into account by schools. Learning to live in uncertainty and frustration, I think, will be the key. For me, I have seen three skills that they must also teach. The first one is remote collaboration. In all of this time of confinement, of lockdown, I have learned that it's something very important. Collaborating and cooperating in remote is essential. To achieve this requires strong interpersonal skills in the use of collaboration tools, knowledge of several languages, and knowing how to be different and understand possible cultural differences will be the key. The second one is agility and adaptability. So agility and adaptability will be a key success factor, I think. They will have to work with great tolerance for uncertainty and new ideas, acquire knowledge in various disciplines, and be able to assume continuous change. And the last one is creativity and sense of innovation. Creativity is the ability to propose new ways of interpreting situations. So we know this in consultancies like ours, we do it all the time. So it needs to be open to new ideas and experiences, like cultural, artistic, or professional ones. So I think three ideas.
Okay, great, thank you. Isaac, did you have anything you wanted to share in terms of how universities maybe could better prepare students to do a remote internship?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So before an intern joins, we have a questionnaire that we send to the intern. A bunch of them are about, what's your schedule? Are you willing to work, remotely? Are you willing? Some of them are basic questions, but the most important question for me that I look at is what did they want to get out of the internship? And the more that they're very clear on what their expectations are, the better I know if they're going to be a good fit or not. Because if they're really interested in learning about what it is that we're teaching, or that they have an opportunity to participate in, and also if their relevant school experience matches up, then I think it'll allow me to know if they're going to be good at working with others, or online collaboration. I don't know if you can, a university administrator can better prepare a student for that. But what they can do is really identify whether this person is really going to be interested in an online internship, or they're going to phase out after 3 or 4 weeks and not be that interested. I think that's probably the most critical thing, is what is it that they're looking for just because that's what they think they should do and that's what everyone else is doing, so they want to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that kind of leads us to our next part. Isaac, I wanted to ask you if you could share when you have a remote intern, so somebody has passed, the questionnaire, they've made it through the filter, they had a great interview, and you have them join you as an intern. Can you speak a little bit about how you onboard them and what sort of structure you have in place for the intern?
Yeah, so my background before getting into Paragon Partners and in finance is I built a real estate property management company here in Shanghai. When I sold it, it had about 80 people, and the average age of the employee was about 24. And that the challenges with that business were relatively high turnover. We were dealing with basically leasing out properties, and we had a huge sales team. And so it taught me the value of HR and with onboarding and training. So pretty much for our internship, there's about 5 or 6 things that the interns will do, whether it's market research, investor research, developer research, investment analysis preparation, 1 or 3 other tasks. There's a training guide for each one of these. The training guide could be about 6 pages. And I know that not all the interns read it, but when they are not able to do something, either I tell them to read the training guide, or I know that they're just not capable of performing the task. But I instead of having to explain to them, because they're not the first intern to join, we refer them to multiple training guides. That's number one. The second one that we use, or so large companies have these, but we have an IT onboarding guide, and it explains everything: how to use Teams, where the wiki is in Teams, how to use our OneDrive, how to use our CRM, and it's very detailed because it takes a long time to onboard an intern and a lot of effort. So we've created all these guides for these interns to basically know what their expectations are, and then we also have a weekly KPI, simple document of what they're expected to do on a weekly basis. Besides their normal projects, we have 1 or 2 kind of ongoing tasks that they must do throughout the internship. So in order for us to actually successfully onboard interns, we've spent a good amount of time, and if they can complete, like I said, these basic tasks where there's guides for a lot of these tasks, then we'll give them complicated projects, whether, that's where a manager will have to train them, individually. But basically, onboarding guides and then guides for what they're supposed to be doing is how we've been somewhat successful with our internship program.
Okay, great. And then just to ask a question, because someone wrote in the chat earlier and it kind of ties in. I know many universities are curious about this as well, that in order for them to get credit for an internship, they have to have what's considered supervised hours, with a company, so that somebody is keeping track, of their progress, what they're doing, how they're doing. How would you be ensuring that a student is getting appropriate oversight in your internship, and they are, completing all the projects satisfactorily in their learning? Yeah, go ahead, Jorge, that's fine.
Sorry. Well, the first thing is to know the tools that we have and give them an efficient use. We must know, can you hear me, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. We must know when something has to be raised in our Teams meeting that we do, for example, Teams from Microsoft Teams or Skype every week. What type of information or message has to be put and to whom by WhatsApp to be more agile and efficient, and what should be a call specifically to clarify situations and react correctly. And what's an email? That means that something must be to be put for the record. No, we should not copy to all the persons of the company, nor should we share everything with everyone, because we will lose ourselves reading a lot of information in which they don't need you, and we will lose agility, and we will become what Lisa Bodell in her book Kill the Company calls some companies zombies. And what we need right now are thin companies, no? Companies who are more agile and more efficient. So there are always communication problems in companies. We experience it often. And it's because we have many projects running and little time to execute them. But we must identify the most common mistakes and try to create new processes so that this does not happen again. I just think that internal communication, good communication, comes from a department that tells you and co-create the actions with you, and not to tell you what to do exactly. So we must learn to live in change, which is the only constant today, I think.
Okay, great, thank you. And then Carolyn, I wanted to ask you about the processes and tools that you're using to evaluate an intern's performance. And this could also be tied into supervised hours of how you're controlling, you know, what a student is doing, how they're performing, and that they are completing, you know, all of the requirements of the internship.
Okay, thank you. Well, I guess to begin with, I believe in having a daily communication with the intern, whether that's a short email exchange or a quick WhatsApp call. I call it kind of like a checkup from the neck up. Sometimes people pretend like they're understanding something and they're working on something, but then they've really got some question that they're afraid to ask. And I try to find out if performance isn't happening or they're not doing the task as quickly as I think they could, then let's just try to run some interference and find out what's really going on. Is there something going on in their life? Is there something going on that they just don't understand the project? It wasn't explained to them properly by the team member who gave it to them. So I think that even if it's just a short 5-minute chat here, you know, I'm the director of operations. I'm also the HR. Some people call me their mother, and some other people call me other names, I'm sure. But I think communication is the bottom line. Also, I have had conference calls with universities with interns that we've actually had in Hong Kong that needed credits, and they would like to have an update either like say every 4 weeks or every 3 weeks, and get my input on how the intern is doing because it is an accredited course. So whatever the university requires, I always ask that they provide us a guideline of what they are expecting and what kind of communication and how do they want to receive it. If it's going to be a 100-page report, I'm sorry, I don't want to be bothered. But on the other hand, if it's true evaluation on how they're doing and making sure that the student is taking it all seriously, I'm more than happy to work with the university and give them whatever input that they really need to evaluate that student.
Great, thank you. Yeah, we do the same, Carolyn, with the different partner universities around the world, that they give us the evaluations that they need or the requirements they have, because some can be very specific depending on their major, to make sure they are meeting the number of hours, the type of project and work, supervising that's required to get that credit. So yeah, we do the same. We adapt to what each university needs. And
yeah, they're all
so far,
different.
Yeah, I haven't seen a 10-page one yet though, so that's good.
Well, there was one that was getting a little carried away from the UK, but you know, we got that squared away, no problem.
Good, good, thank you. And I wanted to ask you all, you know, what would make you want to hire a student after a remote internship? So, you know, this is something that students often ask us when they're in the interview process. They're looking at doing a program, and their goal is to really get hired once they've finished. So whether it's, you know, with your company or maybe with a contact that you have, how would a student, you know, convince you that they should get a job after the internship? So I don't know if Jorge, if you want to share your thoughts on that.
Well, I will be sure that this new way of working works perfectly, and it's maintained over time because although it was already working well for us right now, it's true that we combine this online form of working with the face-to-face when everything happened, because our consultancy, we have to go out and see the clients and work with them in their facilities. And we have to see how their members behave, and that part is still not resolved online. But it will help a lot if the interns, with their new ideas, could think of products that may be interesting to the industry and can be run remotely. If they have an idea, they develop it, and we see that it works for the industry, of course, we could think in hire them to execute them. Again, it's more proactivity is the key, proactivity.
Thank you, Jorge. Isaac, what would convince you that a student should be hired after a remote internship?
We have team leaders that are, you know, groups of 3 or 4 interns, and the team leader is typically the one who's the most passionate and typically also quite skilled in finance. Only consider team leaders the ability to communicate with, you know, 2 or 3 other interns that might not be as skilled or might not be as passionate. So for them, if they're, I guess, designated as a team leader, then that's one for sure consideration, or yeah, we consider them if they become a team leader. To be honest, they'd have to be in China for us to hire them. So it's not fair for me to say that, yeah, we would give someone an online internship, because they do have to, the next step is, you know, first they're learning about the industry, they're learning a lot of the basic skills, but then the second part of the skill set is they have to understand real estate, which is physical, on location type of work. And then they would also have to speak Chinese. So sometimes we do have very talented interns that I know would be fantastic, but if they don't speak Chinese, they can't, we can't hire them. So those are the three qualifications that I would consider, and we have hired interns in the past, but they've been on location and in the office.
Okay, thank you. And Carolyn, what about you? What would convince you to hire someone after a remote internship?
Well, I think one of the things is for them to have left the impression that, boy, I wish their internship wasn't done yet. Can you come back? Have you considered part-time? And I've had a few like that where, in fact, I've still stayed in contact with them because they were just so good and they just wanted to learn, and they came up with new ideas themselves, which I think is always wonderful with interns, is that they're bringing that youth and sometimes that new view on things that in an office environment with the same people all the time, you just end up getting stuck a bit. So I guess it's just the ones that really stand out and add so much that you just don't want them to leave. And you know, as the other gentleman said, you know, we're in Hong Kong. So our main office is Hong Kong, Shanghai. We just got our license and that office is beefing up nicely. But we're really focused in Asia. So again, they'd have to be willing to locate to Asia. Chinese, Mandarin would be helpful. It's not mandatory for us. because we deal with a lot of expats. And in Hong Kong, there's still a big English speaking population versus, working with mainland China. So you wouldn't have to have Chinese.
Okay, great, thank you. And then our last question before we turn it over to our attendees and let them ask whatever questions we have one in the pipeline, but to ask more questions, I just wanted to ask all of you, where do you see your industry going in the next year? Given the COVID situation, maybe economic situation as well, in your countries or in your industries, what do you guys kind of see as the future in the next year? So Isaac, if you wanted to share with us first how you see your work this next year.
Yeah, I think this is probably going to be the biggest year that we've had. We focus on distressed assets in China. So for us, this is, I guess, good timing. Also in real estate, typically some companies typically make a lot of money when the market goes down, because that's when we can acquire assets or a lot of trading activity happens. A lot of investors are excited about the market in China, especially compared to what's happening in the US and Europe. So for us, it's a growth, definitely a growth phase.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Isaac. Good. Carolyn, where do you see your industry going in the next year?
Well, obviously, in my opinion, the financial industry is just going to continue growing as the economies are going to be coming back. You look through history and it doesn't matter, what was happening 20, 30, 40 years ago that looked like a crisis. When you look at a long-term chart, it was just a little bleep in life. And that's the nice thing about the financial industries is the resilience. And our company our staff, most of us have anywhere from 15 to 25 to 40 years of experience. And we've ridden out these crises before that we've seen over the last 6 months. Some of the staff haven't seen them as bad as it is right now. And even as somebody with, my history, things got a little scary there at first. But, you see the markets coming back. They're resilient. People still need product. And as Isaac said, China is going to continue growing. There's billions of people. That real estate market isn't going to quit. He's in a great place. And Hong Kong's the window to China. That window's getting more open. And our viewpoint, and from some people outside, I think it's closing, but I don't think so. I think Hong Kong's still got a long ways to go and a very wonderful future. And if not, we got Shanghai going for us and Australia, and Asia's here to stay.
Okay. Thank you. Great. And what about you, Jorge? Where do you see your industry in the next year? I mean, working with fitness centers, that might change a lot within the next year with the situation.
Yeah. Well, our industry, as fitness industry this year, for obvious reason, is undergoing many changes. Safety, hygiene, and capacity control issues are the mind of operators. Economically, they are already suffering the consequences because they have not been able to open their facilities, their business. So, however, a consultancy like ours has a lot to offer them regarding the profitability of their business, marketing campaigns so that their members do not unsubscribe from the gym, and new opportunities such as helping them to digitalize and their services and work on fitness online, for example, will be the future. I think that it's an industry that will suffer in the short term, but in the medium and long term, those who come out of this will have a great future in a society that needs physical activity and health in times of sedentary lifestyle and bad habits. So I think it's going to be a good industry in the future, but in the in the short term, there are going to be kind of issues this year, next year probably.
Okay, thank you. So thank you guys so much for your explanations and sharing. We wanted to give some time to attendees to ask questions. So feel free, I can read out the question, and then if you want to unmute yourself and answer, if you feel like you have you'd like to answer that question, please feel free to do so. So one of the first questions we had in here was, do you offer paid or unpaid internships? And if they're unpaid, do they offer workplace safety insurance or something similar, even though the internship is virtual? So I don't know if one of you would like to answer that. Oh, let's see, Carolyn, I think you're talking. Are you talking? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Basically, we only do unpaid internships. It's just been a company policy, and we've been able to get very good quality people without having to pay. It was the question about insurance?
Yeah, they also asked if they're unpaid, do you offer some sort of workplace safety insurance or something similar, some sort of insurance? Okay. So usually,
yeah, no, we don't. I haven't heard of that before, but no.
Jorge, did you have anything to say in regards?
We don't either now.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. And then let me see, another question was, how do you help improve career readiness and global fluency for all interns?
And that's a good one. I guess one of the ways we do it here is our office looks like the United Nations. We have people from all different nationalities with all of our different advisors, and therefore preparing them for a global market. They'll be working with people from all over the world. And that's the nice thing about Asia and Hong Kong, is that, you know, I've got somebody from India, I've got people from Australia, I'm the token American. We've got people from Shanghai, we've got people from Japan. So I think that really helps an intern having to learn to deal with different type of personalities that come from different cultural backgrounds. So I think that helps prepare them.
Okay, good. Another question.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, Jorge, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. I think the same, that I think the most rich experience is that right now online we have the opportunity to think globally. So for example, here in Europe, my first language is Spanish, so I have to speak English with you in this context. I speak French also. So I think that people here in Europe, we need to speak a lot of languages to try to communicate with all the people who are around us. And this is, I think that is a good perspective with the intern, that they are going to realize that they are communicating with all the people with different cultures, as Carolyn said. So I think it's going to be more rich in the world, in the actual global world, is going to be fundamental.
Exactly.
Okay, great. And then this is a question maybe Isaac, you would be able to answer. One of our participants asked, how would you recommend colleges go about finding internship opportunities for students? So many career offices or international offices, they're always trying to find opportunities for students. So how would you recommend that they do that?
To have an intern?
Yeah, oh, sorry, there we go. Yeah, to how can you find internships?
Well, I know we advertise on LinkedIn.
For internship opportunities, and why are they having problems? Because I think all three of us, all our companies, you know, would like to have more interns. So you're asking us. I think the opposite question. I didn't realize that there was an issue with administrators finding internship opportunities, we have the issue of finding interns.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, just going to absolute internship, paying them more money would probably be the best solution. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, I tell that to universities often that we have many host companies that are asking for interns, and, we're ready for the students to come. So I think it's, making that connection between companies and universities that can sometimes be challenging to do, especially, if you don't know someone in Shanghai or you don't know someone in Madrid, right? Like how to get that connection with the company. But yeah, all of you guys are definitely looking for interns. I wanted to, let's see, we had other questions. One was, what is the correct length for an internship? So I understand that to be, what do you guys think would be a right amount of time for it to be a really valuable experience?
I really don't want to take an intern on that can't be with me for at least a minimum of a month. And I would prefer 6 weeks as a minimum. Obviously, I realize that, sometimes that just doesn't work. I have really found especially for the ones that are very enthusiastic, if they're with me for 2 months, they really get a lot out of working with the company because they've had an opportunity to not only meet the people and they start really learning the culture. So I think, 6 to 8 weeks is just marvelous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say that it takes a full month for an intern. It takes a full month for an intern to really get used to the work, understand what their assignments are. Even if they're very talented, it still takes a decent amount of onboarding. So the minimum for us is 2 months. Definitely prefer 3 months. And if they're not putting in, when they're on site in the office, it was 8 hours a day. But for a virtual internship, about 4 or 5 hours a day, at least 5 days a week is enough. Although we typically assign them work on the weekend. And then some of them will do it on the weekend, the ones that are passionate, and then some of them won't. It just depends. Because we have investor meetings, throughout the week, so we need assistance. But definitely, it takes 1 full month for the intern to get acclimated. So 3 months is the ideal time.
Yeah, 3 to 6 months in our case is our ideal of the time.
That would be your wish list, yeah. And we had a question for Carolyn. Carolyn, they said, you mentioned that a UK institution was perhaps somewhat overzealous in terms of the deliverables they required from you as an intern employer. Could you expand on this, or perhaps outline what you think is a reasonable expectation? I'd be keen to ensure we aren't doing the same.
Okay, well, and I won't name the university, but they wanted to have like a weekly call with me at, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, my time, which can be part of my busiest time. I'm sure it's their morning time and they were going to have a cup of tea or something, but and then they wanted me to give them weekly reports that were about 5 pages long, and they wanted it to be handwritten, and they wanted it to be, like I was writing a paper. And I'm going, wait a minute, I'm not the intern here. I'm happy to work with people and to make sure that the student is doing what they're supposed to be doing to get credit, because I realize it's important. But just don't make us do all the work. In fact, to be quite honest with you, what I ended up doing is I just told the lady, yes, 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 I'll do that. And then I had the intern fill it out and I signed it, to be quite honest. But, so be careful what you ask for.
Okay, good. Yeah. And another question we had was, what do you recommend students to do when misunderstanding happens between the internship supervisor and an intern?
You talking to me again?
Anyone.
Okay. Well, if there's been a misinterpretation, then obviously, speak up. And if they want to talk to my boss, no problem. I'll be happy to give them my name. But most of the time, it's just talk or send an email, and most of the time it's talk, because sometimes two emails you just keep going back and forth and never get resolved. So, and it's a communications thing.
Yeah, in our case it's the same, but it's our same because for us our interns are like our team, so we work with them shoulder to shoulder, hand to hand.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So it's better to speak directly and say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand you, or I think that it's misunderstood, or I don't feel comfortable with this situation or something like this. I think it's going to be more clear, and it's going to be more easy trying to have a better communication. But if it's a big problem for them, probably, well, in the case of Absolute, they can talk to you and make us a part of the triangle of this misunderstanding. But talk all the time with no fear. I think is the best way.
I do have a comment. I saw that someone had asked a question again about paid internships, and I'll share my experience. In my previous company that we were doing real estate leasing, I did pay interns, and that was because I wanted their work, and the only way I could really get them focused was by paying them. For this industry, it's been different, and that's because interns that really want to learn, there's a very high barrier to entry for finance, at least in my field. And interns that are interested in this industry, I found that we don't need to pay them because they might have to pay for classes somewhere else to get the same knowledge that they're getting from the internship. And I think that also comes down to the original question, which is what a campus supervisor can ask the students what exactly it is that they're looking for, and if it really matches up with the company or the prospective company, then I don't think that the intern needs payment. But if it's not a great match and they're expected to do work, then I think that's where payment's expected. So I think it really comes down to what the intern's expecting. And my particular industry is hard to get into. There's not a lot of people doing it. So if they're interested in it, I found that we just don't need to pay. And that's different than the previous industry that I was in.
Yeah, and I was curious that we had another question kind of related to some of this and this is a common comment that we receive from whether universities or from students, where they're talking about financial barrier, right? That I'm paying an organization like Absolute Internship, to do an internship that's unpaid. And that's hard for some people to understand or to reason with. I know we have our, everything we do for the student, but how would you guys explain the value of doing unpaid work? I know, Isaac, you were talking a little bit about that, but what do you guys think about unpaid internships?
Well, I think probably part of it is, I understand they pay Absolute Internship because it's difficult for them to do their own screening to find qualified potential employers, especially, overseas ones. And let's all be quite honest. I'm sure some of us have taken positions where we felt we were underpaid, but we saw the opportunity to learn. And I think one of the things I've found working with you guys is that you really do try to match up with the interns with the companies, and that to make sure that it's a match. And I know that, you know, my company went through a qualifying process before the Absolute group let us be one of the companies that you would recommend. So I think that would be part of it.
Yeah, well, in our case it's different because we have an agreement with different universities, and some of the interns with these universities that have a master's degree and they came for an intern from this master degree, we pay them, but it's not the case with the international one because, well, we have to, as a team who work with them, we have to invest a lot of time working with them, trying to teach a lot of things, what to do. Our purpose with these international profiles is not only to have an experience, it's even trying to teach them something that they have a good experience with that.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah. And there was a question here for Isaac. I don't know if you saw it in the chat, where it says, how do you make sure that you have students from diverse socioeconomic backgrounds if they're unpaid and can't afford to work full-time unpaid?
What is the question?
Yeah, sorry. How do you make sure that you have students from diverse socioeconomic backgrounds if you know, they're doing an unpaid internship and someone can't afford to work unpaid? So how do you ensure that you're getting diverse, you know, interns in your company?
I can't ensure anything, but I can tell you what my experience has been. We actually had a lot of a fair bit of African finance students that are based in China that have joined the company. So we have a few, Africans. So I don't know how to define diversity, but we have Chinese and we have Africans that are based in China, and then for the online internship, so far it's been a lot of Americans, but they're also diverse. So
yeah, I think it would be challenging, like for an international in-person internship with socioeconomic backgrounds, if universities don't provide scholarships for these types of opportunities, or, you know, Absolute Internship, that we provide scholarships to students as well. But that's a good question for host companies, that how do they, you know, have a diverse intern group? So yeah, sorry, you meant socioeconomic diversity. Okay. So we also had another question. Yeah, sorry, Jorge, we had another question.
I think that, but I think that Jean-Marc here in the chat have a good point of view that it's the virtual internship. It's a good resolution for this issue. They don't need money to be to another country or to spend so much time going to the workplace or something like this. We can have an intern from 2 or 3 hours online, and it could be a good idea. I think that in these modern times, it's going to be a good opportunity for these opportunities for everybody else.
Mm-hmm. And then
actually,
also,
I think that.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I think I have a better answer to your previous question. I don't think people that haven't been to Asia and cities like, especially probably Singapore, Shanghai, and Hong Kong, the diversity that are in these cities, I think they're way more diverse in the U.S. Not the whole population, but at least typically the people that I'll interact with, or the people that our company will interact with, they're way more diverse than anything that you'll see in the US, except for maybe New York City. Like the subway of New York City reminds me of Shanghai and Hong Kong. So that profile of all different sorts of, Asia, Africa, a lot of Europeans, a lot of Americans, that's on a daily basis. That's who we interact with. And then there's, not to mention, a lot of Chinese. And I think that is probably actually the number one benefit in terms of someone's long-term life or what they'll remember, them doing an internship in Asia. That's going to have a big impact on them. Yes, they're going to learn a lot from the internship, but I remember, where I came from, Chicago. I know what that Chicago looks like. Coming to Asia was definitely a big eye-opener for me. So I think that, to answer the question that someone had about diversity, I think just coming to Asia and working in Asia in one of these, very diverse cities will solve any diversity issues that you have, because the people that we hire, the people that we work with, our partners, they're also very diverse.
Thank you. And someone wanted to ask, are students able to work in teams in remote internships?
What do you mean work in teams? You mean that they actually be on a project with other individuals?
Right. So they could be on a team with other colleagues in the company or
Sure.
with other interns as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think I've ever given an intern a job that there wasn't somebody else as well working on the project that would kind of be their mentor for that particular project.
Jorge, are you guys able to have teamwork in your internships?
Yeah, sure.
How does that work? Do the students have to connect with different colleagues in your team, or do they work with other interns as well, or it's a mix of both?
No, they work with us, directly with us.
Yeah, with me, it's a mixture of both, because I could have, like right now, I've got 4 interns. And, in that particular case, some of the projects, could be 2 of them working on the project with another team leader who's not an intern. So yeah, you get a mixture of everything depending on the projects that are just coming up when they are an intern with us.
Okay, great. Did we have any other questions here before we go ahead and finish? I really appreciate you guys for your time. I know for you, Isaac and Carolyn, it's quite late. So thank you for staying up to speak with us. And
well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. And for all of our attendees around the world, I know it's all different times for you, so we really appreciate you taking the time to connect and hear a bit more about internship opportunities, especially companies that are offering remote internships right now. And we will be following up with everyone who registered to have a recording of the session. We'll also be going over any questions that were in the chat that we were unable to answer live. So we'll be able to send more information and share any resources that hopefully will be helpful for you all. So.
Well, thank you all for listening to us, and wish you all just a lot of success, and keep those wonderful students coming our way. Thank you. And thank you very much for organizing.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening. Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Have a great day. Stay safe.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me, Sabrina.
Thank you.